As the dawn of 166 CE broke, Emperor Marcus Aurelius, a philosopher king, faced a burgeoning threat from beyond the Danube. The tranquility of the Roman Empire was shattered as the Marcomanni, Quadi, and Sarmatians, driven perhaps by climatic changes and pressures from further east, prepared to breach Rome's northern frontier. The air was tense, filled with the low murmur of legionaries readying for a conflict that would challenge their very essence. The Roman legions, stationed in the cold, formidable landscapes of Germania, steeled themselves against the harsh winter winds. Marcus Aurelius, donned in his armor, contemplated the heavy burden of leadership, his Stoic philosophy tested by the imminent threat. The Germanic tribes, united in their discontent, surged like a tempest, ready to test the boundaries of the known world. As skirmishes began, the Roman troops encountered the fierce Marcomanni under the grey, oppressive skies of Germania. The clashing of iron and the cries of war echoed through the misty forests, a grim symphony of conflict. Soldiers, their breath visible in the cold air, grappled with not only their enemies, but also the biting frost that seeped into their bones. In his tent, lit only by the flickering of a lone candle, Marcus wrote in his journal, reflecting on duty and destiny. Outside, his generals strategized under the cloak of darkness, their maps sprawled out, tracing the veins of the empire. The weight of the empire's fate rested heavily on the emperor's shoulders, his resolve hardened like the steel of his legion's swords. The pivotal battle of Carnuntum unfolded under a leaden sky, the legions advancing in a disciplined formation that had secured the empire's borders for centuries. As the Roman phalanx pushed forward, the earth muddied by an earlier rain hindered the Germanic cavalry, their horses struggling against the slick terrain. The clash was brutal, the Roman discipline contrasting sharply with the fierce, chaotic vigor of the Germanic tribes. During a desperate moment, when the Roman lines began to falter under the relentless assault of the Quadi, the heavens mysteriously opened. Rain, perceived by the troops as divine intervention, invigorated the Romans while muddling the enemy's efforts. Soldiers, their spirits lifted, fought with renewed vigor, chanting praises to Jupiter, whom they credited for this timely salvation. After the battle, Marcus Aurelius, ever the strategist, ordered calculated withdrawals to better fortified positions, conserving his forces for a prolonged conflict. Nightfall brought with it a piercing cold, the chill serving as a constant adversary to both sides. The legionaries, huddled around sparse fires, shared stories of home, their camaraderie, a small warmth against the encroaching darkness. By 170 CE, reinforcements poured into the region, a testament to Rome's logistical prowess. Engineers and soldiers worked in unison to fortify camps and supply lines, the clatter of construction mingling with the daily drills of the troops. The fortified positions along the Danube stood as bulwarks against the wave of tribal incursions, their stone and timber bastions a symbol of Roman endurance. To the east, the Sarmatians, renowned for their horseback archery, presented a new tactical challenge. Roman cavalry had to adapt quickly, their formations evolving to counter the swift, hit-and-run tactics of their new adversaries. The open steppes echoed with the thunder of hooves and the whistling of arrows, a deadly dance of maneuver and counter-manipulate. In his field quarters, amidst the maps and dispatches, Marcus Aurelius penned thoughts that would become part of his meditations. Each line reflected the turmoil of war and the quest for inner peace, a juxtaposition of the chaos outside and the calm within. His writings, a balm to his weary soul, inspired his men who saw in their leader a beacon of moral fortitude amidst the horrors of war. By 172 CE, the tides of war began to shift in favor of the Romans. With improved tactics and bolstered ranks, the legions launched a series of counteroffensives, pushing the enemy back with precision and resolve. The Germanic tribes, worn by years of conflict and losses, began to waver, their coalition fracturing under the sustained Roman assault. In a daring winter campaign, Roman troops engaged the enemy across the frozen Danube, the ice groaning under the weight of war. The battle was swift, the ice a treacherous battleground that claimed more lives than the sword. Survivors spoke of friends and foes, indistinguishable in death, locked in an icy embrace. As the war dragged on, Marcus Aurelius turned to diplomacy, seeking to exploit divisions among the Germanic leaders. Secret envoys, moving under the cover of darkness, whispered promises of land and gold, sowing seeds of dissent. The strategy bore fruit, as erstwhile allies turned against each other, their unity undone by ambition and betrayal. Even as victories began to mount, the shadow of war stretched long across the Roman provinces, the scars of battle evident on the land and its people. Soldiers, hardened by years of conflict, returned home changed men, carrying the burdens of war in their eyes. Families reunited with joy and sorrow, embracing loved ones who had become strangers in the guise of heroes. The cost of these long years of war was counted not just in lost lives, but in the deep economic strains it placed on the empire. Marcus Aurelius, aware of the sacrifices made, initiated a series of tax reforms and public spending to stabilize and revitalize the war-weary regions. The empire's coffers were drained, but its spirit, bolstered by a hard-fought peace, began to mend. The Marcomannic Wars, although they ended in Roman victory, underscored the emerging vulnerabilities within the empire's vast territories. Marcus Aurelius's reign, once marked by philosophical introspection, was now etched with the realism of military necessity. The wars left a legacy of fortified boundaries and a reformed military strategy that would influence Roman defensive tactics for generations. In the quiet that followed the clamor of war, Marcus Aurelius continued his philosophical writings, contemplating the nature of power and the responsibilities it entailed. His reflections served as a guide for future generations, emphasizing virtue over victory and wisdom over warfare. The emperor's Meditations became a timeless manuscript, cherished for its insights into the human condition and leadership. Throughout the empire, monuments and inscriptions were erected to commemorate the fallen and celebrate the victories. These memorials served as gathering places for annual remembrances, where tales of valor and sacrifice were passed down through families. Each stone and statue whispered stories of a war that had shaped the destiny of the Roman world. As peace returned, Marcus Aurelius focused on reconciliation with the Germanic tribes, establishing trade agreements and marital alliances that would secure the empire's borders. The once adversarial tribes were gradually integrated into the Roman economic and military structure, a testament to Rome's ability to assimilate its former enemies. This policy of integration would have lasting impacts, blurring the lines between conqueror and conquered. The end of the Marcomannic Wars marked the closing chapters of Marcus Aurelius's reign. He left behind an empire that was militarily stronger yet philosophically richer, a paradox that defined his legacy. As the last of the 5 good emperors, his death heralded a period of instability, but his philosophies and policies continued to influence Roman thought and governance long after his demise. Our journey through time comes to an end for today. We embark on new adventures every week. If you relish the experience, please like and subscribe.